asked you to eat my balls. This week, I'm asking you to...
Jeez, I have no idea why it just started like that. Okay. Anyway, hey everyone, welcome back to another reaction video. Today we are reacting to Food Theory, Stop Buying Wagyu Burgers. I don't know what a Wagyu Burger is. Actually, I don't think I ever had a Wagyu Burger. Oh wait, that's Wagyu. Oh, Wagyu. That's... Yeah, I still don't know what that one is. Yeah, nothing comes to mind. Anyway, hope you all enjoy this reaction video. If you did, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button to support the channel, support the content provided, and so on and so forth. Hit the notification button, be notified immediately when the video comes out. And if you have any videos you would like to recommend, put it down in the comment section below. Or, well, for the month coming up, put it down. Go to the community page and put it down in there. Because Halloween's gonna get crazy. So, with all this said, the link to this video will be down in the description below. So be sure to give Food Theory some love and support for the video they made. With all this said, let's start this video.
Beat the meat. Staying real brand friendly on this channel lately, clearly. But trust me, it is all for your benefit. You see, right now there's a conspiracy afoot when it comes to the way that we rate and order meat. You go to the supermarket and all you see are Prime logos. Not that Prime, I mean USDA Prime. All over the meat counter. Then there's choice, select, your meat's getting graded like it's school or something. Then you got yourself Wagyu on everything. Wagyu burgers, tacos, Wagyu pizza. And all of it is there as a means of confusing you, of getting more dollars out of your wallet. So today we're gonna save you the confusion by exposing to you some meat.
Phrasing?
Welcome to Food Theory, the channel that's always well done. And today, friends, I've got some beef with beef, specifically the conspiracy around Wagyu meat. Now, no doubt you've come across Wagyu at some point in your life. It's a word that's become associated with the cream of the crop as it comes to our carnivorous consumptions. Sorry, Amy. But what exactly is Wagyu? Well, Wagyu just literally translates to Japanese cattle. And what makes Wagyu special is how incredibly attentive Japanese ranchers are to bloodlines, all in an effort to preserve the traits of each individual family tree. As such, a purebred cow in Japan has got to be genetically tied to one of 4 Japanese-born breeds: the Japanese Brown, the Japanese Polled, the Japanese Shorthorn, or the most prevalent, the Japanese Black. In total, Japanese Wagyu cattle population currently sits at just around 2.5 million steer, a super limited number which is how the prestige and price for this stuff got to be so high. Each Wagyu cow can cost...
I didn't know there was that many cows.
Compared to about $2,500 for a regular beef cow. And the price that you're paying for a typical
For the
steak
Wagyu stuff
can be upwards of $250 per pound, as opposed to something like 10 or 12. That said, is Wagyu beef truly worth the hype? When I'm paying like 25 or 35 bucks for a Wagyu burger, is that really worth it? The answer is honestly expose some deep-seated lies that exist within the food industry that you as a consumer must know about. So let's just dispel some hype with knowledge in order to make you the true master of the meats. Now, there are a lot of misconceptions about Wagyu that we need to carve through today. First and foremost, despite it being seen as this prestigious ancient category of Japanese beef tradition,
it's not.
It's actually a fairly modern thing. You see, Japan was a vegetarian, or technically a pescatarian nation for over 1,000 years. Back in the 6th and 7th century,
fish.
Introduced
Got
Buddhism through China and Korea. And in the year 675, Japan's 40th Emperor Tenmu enacted a law to prohibit the eating of animals to coincide with Buddhist beliefs. This, though, was overturned in the late 19th century during the Meiji Revolution, which saw a rise of Western influence and a fall of the Buddhist leadership. Why do I speed through all that history? Well, that right there shows you that Wagyu isn't some ancient tradition. The The Wagyu that we're all familiar with today didn't really become a thing until the early 1900s, and didn't even start getting exported to other countries until the 1990s. Secondly, Wagyu has this association with cows that have been massaged out in the fields, where they listen to classical music all day, getting fed an exclusive diet of beer, all to get that most tender flavor of meat. Again, this is just flat out wrong. Remember, the word Wagyu just means Japanese cattle, cows from Japan. Wagyu alone is basically meaningless. What you really need to know is the meat's grade. You see, different countries...
Oh, so it's like regular cow, but...
meat. In Japan, beef is given a quality score known as the BMS, or the Beef Marbling Standard.
Okay.
This ranking goes from 1 to 12 based mainly on intramuscular fat. That's not just talking about the amount of fat, but how abundantly and evenly it's dispersed throughout the muscle tissue. This is important because when you cook it, the fat melts, and not only keeps the meat tender and juicy, but also gives it that meaty umami flavor that carnivores love. As you can imagine, the higher the score on the BMS, the more premium it's considered. In fact, anything less than a 3, not even factored in because there's no actual marbling. Here, you can actually see the visual difference in the fat levels between a 3 and a 12, the highest and the most flavorful. So once they're rated on the BMS, that quality score is then converted to a final score that's scaled from 1 to 5, kind of like a grading curve. This new rating takes into account the quality of the meat overall, things like fat color, meat color, and the overall ribeye shape. So a cut can have itself amazing color and shape, but without the good marbling, it's getting a lower overall score. That final number of 1 to 5 is then coupled with a letter grade that rates the yield of the meat. In other words, how much meat they were actually able to get from the cow compared to its weight. A is giving you the highest yield at a 72% higher, with B and C following. Ironically enough, this letter grade doesn't make that much of a difference to us as the consumer. It's actually more used by the producers and distributors when they're setting the price for the meat. And yet we all fixate on it because years of school education have primed us to always seek out the A's. In reality though, a Japanese Wagyu rated 5
sounds complicated.
top-ranked meat-loving experience.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little lost here. It's a lot complicated. This math is very complicated. Okay, I'm pretty much a bit lost here. This is an interesting factoid. I mean, seriously, they put all this effort into selling Wagyu meat? Really?
Part of a project, and as a birthday present to myself, celebrated with a true, genuine Wagyu A5 12 ranked steak, just so I could have the experience and judge it for myself. And I gotta be honest, I didn't like it. The flavor was a super rich umami, like a very nice high quality steak, which you'd expect, but the texture was literally like eating meat flavored butter. You bite down and you get zero resistance. Your teeth just pass right on through. I never realized how important meat actually having some chew to it was to me, but the disconnect between tasting this extreme umami only for me to bite down and pass through the equivalent of a boba ball of butter meat, it was weird and largely unpleasant. So it would seem like there can
What's with this? Okay, who does that represent? People in Japan?
Problem with Wagyu. If you were paying attention earlier, something I said should have sparked your BS alarm. I said earlier that there are currently 2.5 million Wagyu cattle in Japan. But with the huge volume of Wagyu dishes that are currently being offered out there in the world, that number can't possibly be right, can it? I mean, Arby's just hopped on the bandwagon with their Wagyu steak burger. You really think they're serving meat to thousands of people that starts at $34 an ounce? And even if they were, do you think that's really being provided by those 2.5 million cows that are lounging around over in Japan? No, it's not. You see,
are you saying they're artificially making Wagyu
what you're
meat?
eating at Arby's or Fuddruckers or even most steakhouses likely isn't Wagyu, or at least it's not Japanese. You see, in the 1990s, Japan started to export some of its cows to Australia and the US, and when Wagyu did finally reach the States, we did everything possible to multiply those bad boys as fast as we could, to the point that today we have almost 92 million Wagyu cattle compared to Japan's 2.5 million. But as you might expect with such a huge number in just 2 decades, we tended to play pretty fast and loose with both our bloodlines and our rating systems. It's actually happened in the cattle industry before. Take for instance the most popular beef brand here in America, the Angus, which originated over in Scotland and is even required by the USDA to have any genetic relation to the Aberdeen Angus Angus from which it derives its name. No joke, all it needs to be sold as Angus here in the US is that it needs to look at least 51% black. As in, they just need to somewhat look like the Aberdeen Angus that they started as, and they'll say, yeah, you know what, good enough, and they'll just slap the label right on there. American Wagyu, it's not that far off. While they were imported from Japan, so they're technically Wagyu, they've also been bred and crossbred here. Sure, they still use similar processes for raising and feeding each cow, so you won't find a large difference of texture between Japanese and American Wagyu, but because American Wagyu's been crossbred with other cows in a fairly unregulated way and with unspecified percentages of DNA, there is a fairly substantial difference in the flavor. Japanese Wagyu is richer and fattier, meaning it's easier to eat larger quantities of the American stuff than the Japanese, and that is definitely intentional. American Wagyu is bred with Angus, so it can be meatier and can be sold in larger quantities, which translates to Wagyu, because of the crossbreeding they've done with their own cows, is something of an in-between here. It's not as meaty as the American variety, but decidedly less buttery than the Japanese kind. Japanese Wagyu cows are also raised for longer, around 3 years or more compared to the US's 18 months. Again, a small difference that adds up to a largely different eating experience. But really, we're kind of arguing a moot point across all of this, because the last nail in the coffin, the thing that tells you that almost all Wagyu is a lie, is the fact that restaurants don't even have to listen to regulations at all. They can call whatever beef they want Wagyu. Honestly, they can call the beef whatever they want. Case in point, a subset of Wagyu beef called Kobe. You might have heard of Kobe beef before. If Wagyu is like the Mercedes-Benz of beef, then Kobe is like the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. It is considered to be the top tier of the brand, the best of the best. It's also, fun fact, where the late great Kobe Bryant got his name. His parents saw it at their favorite restaurant and thought it sounded good. True story. Now, officially, Kobe beef can only come from the Hyogo Prefecture in Japan. In fact, to be officially labeled as Kobe in Japan, the cattle have to meet
I thought you just lied about it, but I guess this crossbreeding stuff is
strict, including things like being
something that makes sense.
At the time of slaughter. It has to have been born and raised in the prefecture. Its age and weight have to fall within certain boundaries at the time of slaughter, and also there's a mandatory high BMS rating. Kobe beef needs to score a marbling rating of 6 or higher on that 12-point scale, meaning that you're never gonna find an A3 Kobe beef. Now, as you might guess, with these high standards, only a few thousand cattle qualify as Kobe every year, roughly 3,000 to 5,000, and what's then imported to the US is only enough for 77 Americans' annual meat consumption. Not 77,000, 77, and yet dozens of restaurants are peddling Kobe sliders, Kobe hot dogs, and all of them are about.
So they're lying about the meat, like I thought.
Why is it that no one's stopping these restaurants from their bold-faced lies? Well, honestly, it's because no one in the US has to. Where Kobe beef is a registered trademark in Japan, the US, yeah, they don't recognize that trademark, which means that any old restaurant or fast food joint like Arby's or McDonald's, if they wanted to, could legally claim any meat as Kobe beef if they just wanted to overcharge you for it. They're just banking on customers not knowing any better and thinking that if it says Kobe beef on the menu, then it has to be Kobe beef. It's a pretty shady practice for a restaurant, but it can also be a pretty profitable one, considering it can make the difference between a $20 steak and an $80 one. The only line that restaurants aren't allowed to cross is to claim that they're selling the genuine article, real Kobe beef from Japan. There have been several class action lawsuits against restaurants on that particular basis. It is a murky Wild West, considering that Kobe beef technically has to come from Japan, but not all consumers know that. In reality, there's only 8 authorized retailers in the US of Kobe beef. 8. And only 37 restaurants in the entire country have the certification to sell Kobe. Guess you could say that it's pretty rare. But perhaps the most ironic part of all of this are the dishes where Wagyu and Kobe are being shoved into. More often than not, you're seeing restaurants advertising things like Wagyu burgers, pizza, and hot dogs. But remember, a large part of the experience of the Wagyu is the texture and fattiness. By grinding the meat up to make a patty or shoving it into a casing, you absolutely destroy the marbling and texture that makes that meat so differentiated, so valuable. And then on top of that, all that flavorful fat,
can't disagree,
smashing it down into the griddle or the grill and melting it away before the deliciousness ever reaches your mouth. It'd be like buying a Ferrari just to drive it around in school zones, which is why
actually that's pretty bad. That sucks.
Be wary. Best case, they're using the correct ingredient, they're just not doing it correctly. Worst and more likely case, it means they're just using fancy terminology to upcharge you for basically the same thing. So clearly, while there is a reason why these meats have earned some ridiculously high price tags, it's all been undercut by a lack of regulation and quality control. This has led to confusion in the market and advertisers desperate to use fancy words to get you to spend a few extra bucks on their fast food burger patty. What can qualify as Kobe beef is tiny compared to the demand for it, but because of the prestigious reputation and the name instantly elevating a dish's cost, restaurants actively lie and call regular cheap beef Kobe so they can upcharge you just by using the name. So the next time you find yourself perusing a menu and find Wagyu tacos and Kobe sliders, trust me, it's not worth your time, your money, or your appetite. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit.
Okay. I need to think this through. So, my thought process was right. The whole meat thing is a total lie. It's just an idea that they came up with to make money. That's interesting. Nah, actually, I kind of figured companies would always try something to make sure they have something to get people to buy the stuff they want. Honestly, it doesn't even surprise me anymore. But Wagyu meat is meatier and butterier? No, Wagyu is more fatty. That's interesting to do and note. So, that's an interesting way to go about this. But I can't say it's bad interesting. It's more like interesting how they would go about it. If that makes sense? I don't know. It makes sense on why they would do it. I just don't really like that they're lying about the whole meat thing. But it's not really my choice. In the matter, it's more like them just lying and saying, oh, we don't know what the type of meat it is, but we think it's Wagyu because the percentage of Wagyu is Wagyu and blah 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 blah. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's kind of true. People will say that it's either Wagyu or not Wagyu, and just that stuff that is not Wagyu, they're just gonna lie and put a label saying it's 100% Wagyu, or it's a small percent Wagyu, but it's technically Wagyu, and all that. Because even if it has a percent chance of having been a descendant of Wagyu and has a percentage of being Wagyu meat, it's still that. It's just a form of meat that's now different, and oh my gosh, it's a headache just to think about it. I think you all get the point, and I can't say that this is a wrong. This is more of a fact. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's more of a fact than a theory. But then again, there are those that might not think it's true, and we have to bring a theory-wise opinion about it. So technically, kind of theory-wise, like. Yeah, I'm a bit lost on this matter. So, yeah, with this said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button to support the channel, support the content provided, and so on and so forth. Hit the notification button to be notified immediately when the video comes out. And tell me what you think about this theory in general. Honestly, I kind of figured this would be the case. Because the first second you think you start listening to the explanation, you go like, oh, so it's going to be that way. I don't know if this is something people would think or not, but yeah. And I kind of thought it now, but as the explanation kept going on and on. But yeah. Again, with all this said, if you enjoy, the link to this video will be down in the description below, so if you want to see it yourself, go ahead and look there. But other than that, I'll see you all next time. Bye!